Hello and welcome to Test Prep Dojo's series on the GMAT. This is a continuation of our series on GMAT Verbal. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to do a deep dive into parallelism. So this is one of the most commonly tested topics in GMAT Verbal. It's essential that you understand this thoroughly if you're going to get a good score on the exam. And it's not really something you will have seen before in other types of tests or academic material, classes, things like that. But once you get the hang of it, it's very manageable. And you'll start to view these types of questions as sort of free points. On the same token, if you don't really understand this, you can very easily be tripped up. My name is Peter Mayer. I'm the founder and lead instructor here at Test Prep Dojo. I am a longtime test prep teacher, have worked for a number of test prep companies, and tutor a number of exams. The GMAT is my favorite exam for a number of reasons. Please visit my site, testprepdojo.com. If you like these videos, please like and share them. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or other social media. And there's plenty of free question banks, free questions, and videos like this on the site. If you stop by on a frequent basis, you'll see all of that. So let's dive into today's session. So I'm going to begin with a very simple example just to kind of introduce everyone quickly to parallelism in case you haven't seen it before. And so parallel structures involve things that are meant in writing to be put on a parallel plane. And so the easiest way to first start to get a hang of this is just to be able to quickly scan the answer choices and identify things that look different. And so here's our simple example. I like swimming and to run. That would be an example of incorrect parallelism. However, I like swimming and running. That works. And you can see, two gerunds, both in the ing form there. They're meant to convey equal weight in the sentence in terms of what the author or the writer is trying to convey. And so they are correctly put in parallel. However, if you watch my videos, you'll often hear me harping on the importance of grasping the author's intended meaning when you read sentence correction questions, because a lot of this stuff you cannot just apply rules to and think that you have sort of mastered it. It is essential that you understand the author's intended meaning, because the only rule that you can really fully subscribe to is that the words are meant to convey a certain thought, and subtle differences convey subtle differences in meaning, and you must align the two. So my point is, you cannot just say, okay, so if there's a verb in one of the clauses, then it must be in the same tense as the verb in the other to be parallel. If you were to do that, that would be wrong, because many instances there's a meaning which involves different tenses. So here's an example. Peter recently graduated from UCLA and will be attending CVS in the fall. So graduated and will be attending are not the same tense, obviously, but is this sentence correctly in parallel? 100% yes. And the reason is because it's expressing a thought. The author's meaning is best conveyed using different tenses. One of those things is in the past, my graduating from UCLA, and one of those things is in the future, I will be attending CBS. So, again, never lose sight of the meaning. Don't blanketly try to apply rules. Don't blindly go on things that look different. If it looks different or there's a different tense, doesn't mean it's wrong. It all depends on the meaning of the author. However, if the components of the sentence, the two things that are being put in parallel, or the multiple elements that are being put in parallel, if there is a good reason for them to be the same tense, for example, they're pertaining to the same time frame and duration, then in that case, it will serve the author's meaning better to have all of the verbs in the same tense, and so that should increase your confidence that the answer is correct. But again, you just need to do a lot of practice. That's where Test Prep Dojo comes in, and you'll get a feel for it if you work enough problems. So let's go to our example. This is a phenomenal example. It well represents a number of critical elements on the GMAT verbal section for sentence correction. Love it, and hope you like it too. We'll dive right in. So, among lower paid workers, union members are less likely than non-union members to be enrolled in lower end insurance plans, imposing stricter limits on medical services and requiring doctors to see more patients and spend less time with each. So, at first glance, like I always say, number one, understand the meaning the author's trying to convey. Number two, scan the answer choices and try to get a sense for what the different decision points are and start eliminating answer choices based on violating one or both of the decision points. And so here, there's another super important topic that is very well represented, which is the difference between modifier types, in particular ing modifiers and that modifiers. And so, this is a great example because you'll start to get a sense for what I mean when I say subtle differences imply very different things as far as meaning. And so, please keep in mind, and we'll probably do another video on this, but ing modifiers modify the action of the prior sentence or clause, and that modifiers modify the preceding word or noun or whatever it is that comes before it. We'll see examples of both. So it's really important that you identify what is meant to be put in parallel here. And so we can see one of the decision points, if you scan the answer choices, is this first word or phrase here, imposing, or that impose. And so if you read this carefully, you can see union members are less likely than non-union members to be enrolled in lower end insurance plans, imposing stricter limits. So if we went with imposing here, what that would actually mean, because this modifies the action or the entire preceding clause, this would mean that the union members are the ones doing the imposing, which would be nonsensical. That's not what the author means to convey with the meaning here. What is doing the imposing? The imposing is being done by the plans. So it's not an ing modifier that we want, it's insurance plans that impose stricter limits. So that's our first decision point. And so based on that one, we can eliminate this one, and we can eliminate this one. Okay. And now, if we go to the second decision point, and we can see where parallelism comes into play, we have to identify what two elements here, or what three elements, are being put in parallel, and which are not, because that will be crucial to understanding which one we select. And so, what's doing the imposing here? It's the insurance plans, imposing stricter limits on medical services, and again, requiring doctors to see more patients and spend less time with each. So it's the insurance plans that are doing the imposing, and the insurance plans that are requiring the doctors to see more patients. So of the three remaining ones that impose stricter limits on medical services, require doctors to see more patients and spend, We're going to skip that one for now. That impose stricter limits on medical services and require doctors to see more patients. Spending. We'll skip that one. That impose stricter limits on medical services requiring doctors to see more patients and spending. So that's nonsensical. And also that the last one, E, has a very different meaning. So for a number of different reasons, we're going to get rid of this one. We can go perhaps into this one a little bit more later, but the main thing that I want you to see here is that, again, coming back to the meaning, it's the insurance plans that impose stricter limits on medical services, require doctors to see more patients, and do the insurance plans spend less time with each? No. So would it be correct to put the impose, require, and spend all in parallel? Nope, because that implies something very different, and it would not best convey the meaning. It is wrong. And what do we have? We have one left here. So the insurance plans impose stricter limits on medical services and requires doctors to see more patients. Are those meant to be in parallel? 100% yes. And who is meant to spend less time with each patient? It's the doctors. And what do ing modifiers do? They modify the action of the prior clause. So does it have to be a full sentence? Nope. So require doctors, and it's let's see, to see, I believe, is what's being modified here. So the spending is modifying that clause. Is that correct? Yes. Does it elegantly and concisely convey the correct meaning? 100%. And so we have our correct answer here, D. So what are the takeaways? For parallelism, the verb tenses do not need to match. However, if timing, duration, etc. are all the same, then the verb tenses should match. So that's one common thing that's tested. It is imperative to understand the meaning, know the difference between that modifiers, modifying the preceding noun or term that comes before. Ing modifiers modify the action or the entire prior clause. And then for parallelism, there's a hack you can use to identify parallel structures. If you were to list those things out on a bullet point, if in terms of on a PowerPoint slide using bullet points, if you would put all of the bullet points on the same level and on your PowerPoint slide, then they're probably meant to be put in parallel. If one of them would be indented or somehow be on a different level than the rest of the items, then it's not meant to be in parallel. It's a great way to visualize it. Think of things in terms of levels of bullets on a PowerPoint slide. You'll get a lot of questions right that way. Watch this video again. These are some of the most important topics to have right for the exam. And hope to see you on testprepdojo.com. Take care.